All right, it's Tuesday, July 16th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today on the daily chart, we end up with a two-up green day that was mostly an inside day for most of the day at the upper end of yesterday's range, and then at the very end, it took out the highs of the previous day and closed green, so you expect a little higher tomorrow. What we're doing here now, as we kind of, figure out in this big broadening area, are we going to come back through the bottom of the range or continue higher? We're kind of watching now, that weekly chart to see if it can turn red, and we need to get below the purple line, which is the open of the week, in order for turn red. It looked like we might get that today, today after yesterday's little bit of a failure. We were going to look for a potential move down, but instead the market decided to gap up and keep the weekly chart green. So going forward, for the rest of the week, as long as, price stays above this purple line and stays green, we're biased to the upside. And there's still, always exhaustion risk, but since we've consolidated a bunch here and attempted lower, there's still going to be a lot of energy to move higher if that's what price wants to do. It was a tricky day today in the sense that, price did decide to gap up from yesterday. Between the blue lines was the pre-market range. We're gapping above that, but the first two bars didn't want to get momentum to, start the uptrend again. Instead, it headed lower. So at this point, you're kind of above the midpoint of the prior day, but you're kind of failing on bar number 3 to the downside. I already kind of had some puts from yesterday, so I watched this closely. And then on bar 4 here, we had the inside bar and then started up again through the first bar high and the pre-market highs. I discussed how I bought some calls at this point. I shifted to the buy side, expecting it to take out the high of that first bar, and then kind of waiting to see if you'd get a little momentum towards yesterday's high. Instead, what happened was, and price did pause at the first bar high here, try to go lower, and then as it started up pretty strongly, I shot a video saying, that's fine. You expect it to head higher here, but let's be careful because, we really had the little pause at the first bar high. At this point now, it should really get going. And then it failed here after an inside bar down. And I discussed, I made a judgment to say, okay, we're still an inside day. We're failing at the first bar high. Let's reverse to puts. And I bought some puts here. I broke even on the call trade. And I had a good hour or so that it started down towards the lows of the day. That's kind of wanted to see if it hit that target, maybe get below the purple line. And I shot a video down here that, be careful again. It's an inside day. We don't know for sure. It really needs to break below there. And then once you saw it kind of just consolidating here, that trade wasn't working out. So to me, you're biased to the upside all day because you're above the halfway point of the prior day. You're failing to break down. So there was just no real opportunity, at this point for gains to the downside. You didn't know for sure if it was going to just pause here and eventually go lower or higher, but it decided to go higher. So to me, if you're just trading this day outright, you're above the midpoint of the prior day. That keeps your bias up. You're kind of at the top of this range here. That's been very tricky with selling off, and you had one buy attempt here that didn't follow through, and you sort of had an aggressive sell attempt if you thought this might be failing again. We did have some failures at this top, and maybe this was going to be another one, breaking out above the high here and then failing to continue higher. That didn't work out either, but you could have, with good entry location, just kind of broken even there. So it wasn't really a good trade, in terms of the indexes, what to do to it. You can almost see how choppy it was. There was no real directional movement. You're at the top of this range, but you get the feeling now that it's kind of trying to move higher, and you kind of know the reference point. The 2 down day will coincide with getting the weekly chart down, so that's the only way to consider, getting or becoming biased back to the downside. A 2 down day that gets below the open of the week, that could start a potential failure here, but you're not expecting that just given this price action today. But yesterday you might have been expecting lower, and that didn't happen either. So expectations are fine, but we'll have to see how price opens. It's a tricky market in the sense that the Dow, I think, was up 700 points, but if you're in stocks like Nvidia, they didn't go anywhere today, and Meta, so the big cap stocks in the tech side are down. Other stocks are way up. I actually had a trade this morning where I did pretty well on Tesla in the morning, and I discussed how this was an inflection point. I exited, the trade down here, and as it turned out, it comes all the way back up. So it was a little stronger than some other tech stocks, but it certainly gave you an opportunity on the downside. So there's a little decoupling going on. There's probably other sectors to follow and good stocks that are moving up nicely. I see one building stock I watch here, moved up very well. So I didn't trade it, but you could focus on these kind of stocks. But there's still good volatility in these, other stocks as well that I normally trade, even to the downside, and when the market's up 700 points. So if you find the right opportunities and kind of know your context, there's still, it doesn't really matter what if the tech stocks are doing better than the overall market or anything else. But in terms of the SPY, at some point, with this weekly chart being up, and I keep talking about that. We've only had 1 week where there's a little new low for a brief moment. It's been up. At some point, there'll be a red reversal, but at this point, you got to kind of go with the price action and know your reference points. And it could have been today, or now that it's heading up, you got to wait for a 2-down day. So actually, I'm going to be away or busy for the rest of the week. So there might not be many other updates for a while. But in terms of the market, you kind of know what's going on. There's no real actionable signals to the upside because we're at exhaustion risk. An actionable signal would be a failure and then back up, so you can wait for those. The downside's a little tricky because you're in such a strong uptrend, so it's a tricky time, and you kind of know that overall. But at least for today, I don't think if you came in just with no positions, you're staying above the midpoint of the prior day, which is one of my criteria. You're biased to the upside. There's a red to green move there. I guess it never took out the low of the day. If you wanted to stick with it, and you might have, you should have been biased to the upside more or less. Even though I took a chance here and just wanted to see if there might be a failure unfolding. Once I saw it wasn't unfolding, it was time to get out. So that's kind of a recap. What's going on? I guess I get the feeling that, we're just heading higher here, at least to test tomorrow. If it does head higher a little bit, the only way we start to fail is if we come through the midpoint of this bar from today. And the only way we fail on the week is if we get down a 2-down day that gets through the open of the week on the purple line and heads lower. And at some point, you're just going to have to wait for this weekly chart to get a reversal and a 2-down week to start maybe filling in some of these gaps that are on the daily chart. So we will see what unfolds there. But, just keep the reference points in mind, and that might guide, what you're looking to do. Like I said, today, definitely, if you think about it, other than the very end of the day, it was really just an inside day all day long. Anytime you have an inside day, that's choppy trading overall. So it wasn't going to be great opportunities, but the bias is definitely still up. You're just waiting for some kind of, you're looking for signs that you might get that pullback just because you expect it. But as you could see, that hasn't really happened too often. So just got to go with price action. So anyway, we'll see how the rest of the week goes. Expect a little higher tomorrow. We'll see if any kind of reversal might take place to the downside. And if not, then, it's just green, with no real resistance above.